Hello, this video will demonstrate how to use events in Alice 3. This video is not an exhaustive tutorial on events, but rather a demonstration of some key principles. After watching this introduction, you will then be able to experiment on your own or continue to other videos that give more information on how to implement the different types of event listeners provided in Alice. An event is an action or occurrence recognized by the computer that may be handled by software. Events are generated or triggered by the system, by the user, or in other ways. An event listener is a programming element that listens for specific events such as a key press or a mouse click while the program is running and responds to the event by calling an event handler. An event handler is an action that takes place in response to the event. The handler may be a built-in Alice procedure or a procedure created by the programmer. We will look at two handlers that are part of the Alice system, and we will build our own simple handler. This demonstration will use the scene you see before you. The scene has the Mad Hatter and the March Hare from the Biped Gallery. Pause this video to build your own version of this scene if you want to follow along. In Alice 3, all event listeners are initialized in a special procedural method of the scene class, named appropriately Initialize Event Listeners. Open this procedure by clicking on the Initialize Event Listeners tab in the Alice 3 editor window. You will see that the Initialize Event Listener procedure already has one listener. The Add Scene Activation Listener uses the handler procedure Scene Activated to call the procedure MyFirstMethod. The scene activation event responds to the Run button being clicked. There are two ways to add new events. You can drag event procedures from the Methods panel of this or scene object. Or you can use the drop-down Add Event Listener button located on the Methods panel. Clicking on the Add Event Listener button displays a drop-down with 4 different categories that are available. Scene activation time includes listeners for when the Run button is clicked or a time listener that allows you to create events based on the passing of time. The keyboard and mouse categories allow you to set up listeners for different key press or mouse input. The position and orientation listeners allow you to create events based on the location and orientation of objects, such as when two objects collide. To show you how these event listeners can be implemented, let's start with a simple mouse press event. From the drop-down menu, select Mouse, and then select the Add Mouse Click on Screen listener. See that the listener tile with a mouse clicked procedure is inserted into the editor. This procedure is the handler that will now enable your program to listen for and respond to any click of the mouse on the screen. Now that you've set up the event listener, you now need to tell the program how to handle the event. The handler has space that allows you to use Alice methods to build the response to the event. Let's add a move function to the mouse click to see how it works. Selecting the Hare object in the Methods panel, we can drag the move procedure into the Do in Order section of the event listener and set direction and distance arguments. Click the Run button for your program, and then click on the screen to see what happens. You should see the hare move on the screen as the move function is called. This is the basic process of adding an event listener to your program and implementing the handler for the event. Alice comes with two very helpful pre-built event listeners that are fully implemented with listeners and handlers for quickly adding interactivity to Alice worlds. The Add Default Model Manipulation and the Add Object Move For. The Add Default Model Manipulation procedure allows us to manipulate models as our program is running. Select the Add Default Model Manipulation menu item. You will see that the listener is added to the Initialize Event Listener procedure. This built-in Alice listener responds to a click and dragging on any object in the scene by calling a handler that allows the object to be moved in the scene. Click on the Run button to start the program. We can click and drag on any object in the scene, moving it left and right, forward or backward. By pressing the Shift key and then clicking and dragging on an object, we can move the object up or down in the scene. I can turn an object left or right by holding either the Control key on a Windows machine or the Option key on a Mac and clicking and dragging the object. Under Keyboard, you will find the Add Object Mover For event. This Add Object Mover For is a built-in Alice listener that adds basic move and turn functionality to an object mapped to the different arrow keys. Select the Hatter as the model to be moved and turned by the arrow keys. Click on the Run button to start the program. I can now use the arrow keys to move the Hatter forward and backward. We can also turn the Hatter to the left and right. Remember that the object will move and turn based on its own internal orientation, and not on the camera's point of view. You can now experiment with the different types of event listeners or watch the tutorials on the different types of event listeners to better understand the way each one is implemented.